What is up, guys? Welcome back to KJ's channel. Today let's talk about the saxophone. When I was in 5th grade, they took our class to the multi-purpose room and the middle school band director was there. And he was recruiting for band. And that day, I don't know how they do things now, but at that time, 6th grade was the first grade of middle school. So we had 6th, 7th, and 8th grade at Hawley Middle School. 6th graders were treated a little bit differently. They could not play sports, and they were in beginner band. Beginner band, you could pick one of 5 instruments to start with. So he demonstrated a flute, a clarinet, a trombone, a trumpet, and then he told us about the saxophone. And sitting in that room, I just loved the sound of the clarinet. I thought it sounded smooth and silky and was just wonderful. So I went home and I talked to my mom, and I signed up for beginner band and I was playing the clarinet. Here I am, a 6-year-old boy. I walk into the woodwinds class, and I quickly realized that there's only like 4 guys in that entire class. Actually, I think there were only 3 that played the clarinet. I mean, we didn't have any guys playing the flute. One of the guys immediately dropped out of band, or he switched to a different instrument, and then that left 2 of us that I remember, guys that were playing the clarinet at the time. And I kind of thought it was a neat instrument or whatever, but, you know, I didn't like the fact that it was me and a bunch of girls. So I played for that year. As soon as we could try out for drums, I tried out for drums. I made it, but I wasn't very good compared to the other guys, and so, you know, I just played clarinet for the most part. Towards the end of the year, I think Mr. Morgan, our band director, realized that I was going to be dropping out and wasn't going to stay with band. And so he offered me, when you go into 7th grade, they expanded the instruments. After you started on those 5, you could expand to other things. So there were guys that were moving to tubas, there were guys that were, there were people that were moving from flute to piccolo, and they were doing different instruments. And so he offered if I wanted to switch to the tenor saxophone. And I was like, what does that mean? And so, you know, I thought the saxophones were cool. We got to see them. They were pretty sweet instruments. So we switched to tenor sax, but then I switched from woodwind class to the brass class because the tenor part was mostly low brass. And so I played 7th and 8th grade years in middle school playing the tenor sax. By that time, I was pretty good at wrestling, and when we were moving to high school, I didn't want to be in the marching band. I wanted to focus on sports, and just wasn't my thing. So yeah, that's been my history with the saxophone. I played the tenor sax. Now what that means is I did not have my own instrument. Tenor sax is pretty expensive. The school bought the instrument, and I think they had 2 of them. And so when I ended, there was somebody else that was playing. There were always 2 of us. And then that would go to the next person. So after I quit band, I didn't have a saxophone for many, many years. As I aged, I hadn't thought much about playing ever again. And here, I don't know, maybe a year or 2 ago, I was joking with a girl in our church who plays saxophone. I was like, oh, maybe I should start learning again. And then that afternoon, I saw somebody had one posted for sale, in the marketplace, but it was an alto sax. And so, I got to thinking, I'm like, oh, if I learn a saxophone again, it should probably be the alto sax, because that's the most popular. That's what you see all over the place. And so I commented on that one, asking about more info. And I had somebody in our church said, well, I have one that my kids had that nobody plays anymore. And I said, okay, I'll take it. And it was a Selmer Bundy 2 alto sax. Seems to play, so that's what I've been playing. Taking a little break from some work here, and one of the things that I want to follow in my journey this year is relearning the saxophone. So let's break out the saxophone here. Got ready to practice my saxophone, which Sharon so graciously went and picked up from the church from me, and I had forgot to put the strap in the case, so I've got to go back to the church and pick up the strap. That was a squeak. Saturday about noon, I'm heading down to the church. I need to spend a few hours getting stuff ready for tomorrow and practicing my saxophone. So Sharon asked me, oh, you're taking your saxophone back to the church? Because, wow, sorry about that. As you saw, I had brought it home. Well, I'm going to have to take it back and forth in order to practice, I believe, because I don't know my schedule completely, whether I'm going to be at the church tomorrow and how that works, because you guys saw the video about my schedule. Time for school teach. That same young lady in the church, when I told her I had acquired a saxophone and I was going to start playing, she brought me a couple of books. But this Yamaha band student, I think, is the same one that we would have used. I had the clarinet one, and then when I switched over to tenor, I don't remember exactly how that worked. I didn't have to go back to book one because I had already learned some notes or something. I don't know how it all worked out. Anyway, yeah, so this is what I've been working through. And after a few days of practice, I'm actually surprised at how much I remember about playing. And as you saw in a previous video, Sharon had challenged me to learn this so that I could play it on New Year's. And, you know, the occasional squeak here and there, I was surprised at how easy it came to try and do that. So that was only after just about 10 or 15 minutes of practicing. So I think I'm going to, that's very encouraging. So I think I'm going to keep after this and work on playing. So again, I have realized that my hardest thing is I never learned to read music properly. I was talking about this with somebody else, is I didn't learn that this line is this note. It's not because I wasn't taught that. I was taught that. But my brain shortcutted and said, that note right there feels like this. And so that's what my brain did. And I didn't actually think through the music. And so when we were in band, if we got a new piece of music to learn, I learned it by rote and exactly how my fingers are supposed to be. So I didn't think, oh, this is in the key of G, or this is got this in it. I just learned it by doing it over and over again. So that's something I hope to remedy a little bit. I never want to, well, I say never. I have no desire to be a, performer, musician type of person who understands music and can jump into a band and add saxophone. But if our church decides to do a piece together, I can practice enough to play that piece, play the saxophone part of that piece, but then also every so often just be able to play a song that I want to do for me, just to say that I can. Is that arrogant? Maybe. I don't know. I have the ability to learn stuff, and I like to do that. Did a little practicing and finished up my stuff for tomorrow. Well on the way to being the new Kenny J.